there's just so, oh my God, why you lying, Elaine?
In this case, as opposed to the...
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever, hi. So this week, the trial, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial has come to an end. On June 1st, they finally came to a verdict, and a lot of people who have not been watching the trial the entire time are, speaking their opinions about how they think Amber Heard was wronged by this verdict. And in this video, we're gonna talk about why I disagree with that sentiment, why the facts, if you have been watching this trial at all, why the facts are in Johnny's favor and why they have been this whole time. It's really interesting how once the verdict was read, all of these tabloids, all of these newspapers, the Washington Post, where Amber Heard's op-ed was originally published, are all coming out with these stories talking about misogyny in our culture and how we have failed victims of abuse and how this is just gonna stop women from speaking out in the future. And I don't think this is accurate. It's really pissing me off that this is the angle that everyone is deciding to go in when this was a defamation trial, guys. This was not a criminal trial. If you've been watching the trial from the beginning, like I haven't been doing stuff weekly about this because I have a full-time job. I don't have time for this shit. But I have been watching every single part of this trial through the 6 weeks that it's been happening. And the evidence is overwhelmingly in Johnny Depp's favor. And to think that a jury would ever find in his favor without that evidence being there for them to find in his favor, that's kind of... Where would you get those accusations is my question. Where would you guys want so badly for people to trust in the legal system, trust in, a trial by a jury, and then you're trying to discredit the jury? We're gonna watch Elaine Bredehoft's interview with Gayle King a few days after the verdict was read, because I think that this is the most negligent shit you could ever do as an attorney. Why the fuck would you go on air and do this? Okay, let's just put this on and we're gonna watch it together, and I'm gonna try not to scream because this woman's press tour after Amber Heard was found to have defamed Johnny in the media. Okay, let's just do it. It's always funny when I see Gayle King, I just think about that fucking interview with R. Kelly. I'm fighting for my life here, man.
How can I pay child support? How? If my ex-wife is destroying my name and I can't work.
Okay, play.
With Johnny Depp and his defamation lawsuit is drawing both condemnation and praise. The verdict came after 6 weeks of very dramatic testimony from both sides. She claimed that he abused her while he said she was the abuser. In his reaction, Depp wrote, "The goal of bringing the case was to reveal the truth, and that truth never perishes." Elaine Bredehoft is the attorney for Amber Heard and is with us now. And we should mention, we did also reach out to Johnny Depp's team, but they declined to be interviewed this morning. Elaine, thank you. We're so very glad you're here.
Thank you.
We heard Amber's reaction to the...
See, I really find it interesting that they're like, yes, we reached out to Johnny Depp's team and they declined to be interviewed. Because everything has already been said. Why are you doing this press tour? You're doing this press tour because you got some schmutz on your face. And you got more lies you need to tell.
The verdict yesterday, this seems to be a huge victory for Johnny Depp this morning.
Yeah, a major setback for women, for women inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom.
Because?
Because basically what this said, Amber had an enormous amount of evidence, although a lot of it was suppressed.
Okay, What she's saying already is inaccurate. She did not have a mountain of evidence. That's a lie. And I don't believe that there was stuff that was suppressed. If anything was kept from the trial, it was because it was either irrelevant or it was provided after the time that the abuse had already happened, like that medical treatment from her ENT doctor that had nothing to do with any of the incidents. And it happened, like, she went to that doctor like 2 years after the divorce. So why would we admit that into the trial? There's just so, oh my God, why you lying, Elaine?
In this case, as opposed to the UK. But look at all the women who have no evidence. All these women who suffer from domestic violence, domestic abuse, they don't have evidence. And basically what this jury said is unless you pull out your cell phone and you tape record your spouse beating you, you're out of luck.
But Elaine, I think it was bigger than that because you had the evidence, as you say, but they did not believe her. Why do you think they did not believe her?
Cause she a liar, and you can feel it in that courtroom. The way that she would answer her questions and just look over and scan at the jury and see who was paying attention and who was just looking in the air. Like, that's not how normal people who are telling the truth answer questions. It's just not.
I think that a lot of that was that it was Johnny Depp. I think the celebrity status.
But she's a celebrity too.
And it's not only not
she's
believing her.
yeah, but she's a celebrity too.
Right.
But you have to remember, it's a tale of two trials. All the evidence came in the UK. Mr. Depp brought that one. The burden of proof.
Why is she lying about the UK trial? This bothers me.
Proof was on the son in the UK because they had called him a wife beater and talked about the domestic violence. He had his opportunity to tell the truth then. And a 3-week trial, he lost. The judge found 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence. And that came out November 2, 2020. We weren't allowed to tell the jury that.
Well,
Because that trial was completely irrelevant to this one. And they denied all of his evidence in that trial. They orally accepted her evidence that she was supposedly a victim of abuse, and they just went with that. They were like, yeah, so because she said that she was abused by you, that means we're allowed to publish this story. Okay? Like, shut up, Elaine, you lying.
it's a different system, and the judge, it wasn't a jury, it was a judge. The
Thanks,
judge said it was
sir.
substantially true, and that is significant, and I think surprised a lot of legal analysts. But, you know, in this case, the jury not only didn't believe Amber Heard, but in ruling that she acted with actual malice, that means she had the intent to cause harm, right? That's a pretty high standard to prove it.
And it's pretty amazing since the op-ed never even mentioned Mr. Depp. You have to...
Girl, she incriminated her damn self on the stand when Camille asked her about the op-ed. And she was like, yes, I wrote that about Johnny. Stop it, Elaine, stop it.
Remember that. What they learned from the UK case is to demonize Amber, which is what they did, and to try to suppress as much of the evidence that came in the UK and did not come in the United States. But the other problem is we had cameras in the courtroom. So here we had not only...
I don't think that the cameras in the courtroom were a bad idea. I think they were a great idea, because if we didn't have them, we would have never seen the extent of the hoops that she was willing to jump through to make her lies stick. All of those witnesses that were brought in to tell their stories, they were all solid. You could tell that their stories were true. They just recited them from memory. They remember those moments. And every time you asked Amber about the things that she went through, she's like, And that's a liar. I'm sorry, Elaine, but you're representing a liar.
Did we have a group of Depp fans that were there every day? 100 were allowed in. They lined up at 1 o'clock in the morning for their wristbands to be in that courtroom. But we had everything on camera, and we had...
The reason why you had a lot of Depp fans waiting every day is because they're supporting someone who they see has been lied on for years getting their day in court. Why wouldn't you want to support that?
Tremendous social media that was very, very, very much against Amber.
It was pointed out that that was the first time that a victim of sexual abuse had to testify on live television.
And I fought hard and lost that battle. It should not have happened.
So I am a former NFL player, and
Ooh, is he gonna say something good? Let's go. Let's hear.
after a hard loss, it's easy to wake up and point to the other side. Oftentimes, I realized the better thing to do was to look in the mirror.
Ooh, he dropped the mic. That is so true. I think that a lot of people would have had a lot more respect for Amber Heard and her team if they had taken a step back and not said anything right after the verdict, because this is a bad look.
What mistakes did I make as a player? What mistakes did our coaching staff make? And then how can we improve from there? Do you feel like you guys made any mistakes along the way? Do you feel like Amber made a mistake while she was on the stand? Because you're saying it's the celebrity, it's Johnny, it's the people who support him. But what about you and your team?
Yes, that is a great question. Let's see if Elaine gives a good answer.
Well, and that's an excellent question. And to say, and you know, Amber even said on the stand, I am not perfect. I am a human being. These people were giving her death threats. They threatened to microwave.
Can we stop with this fucking, like, they're just trying to pull sympathy from people by repeatedly saying, oh, they've threatened to put my baby in a microwave. We get it. I understand. It sucks getting death threats, but if you hadn't been on the stand lying, like, just apologize. Maybe apologize.
Her baby. This is the kind of social media she was getting. So are any of us perfect? No. Is there something else we feel we should have done? Yes, absolutely. I redo my closings 100 times afterwards, whether I win or lose. That's part of being a good lawyer, a good trial lawyer, is there's always something. But I think that there were a lot of influences here that were beyond our control. And I think the social media, it was like a Roman Colosseum.
I don't think this is fair because she keeps referring to the social media aspect, creating like this circus, and then when the verdict was reached, she thought that played a big impact on how it was carried out. But the jury isn't allowed to look at social media. They're supposed to just go in, follow the jury instructions, use the evidence provided by the court to come to the answers for those questions. You're gonna fucking go on national television and try to discredit the jury who sat through 6 weeks worth of your work and the other side's work, and you're just gonna say that they were carried by social media's opinion? This is gross, Elaine.
Is the best way to describe the atmosphere here. And I have to believe that the jury, even though they're told not to go and look at anything, they have weekends, they have families, they have
they were not sequestered. They were not sequestered.
And the 10-day period we had, how could they not have been influenced?
But Elaine, for most people watching this trial, and a lot of people, as you know, got huge views, it just seemed to be so messy and salacious and so tawdry on both sides. And I think a lot of people from the outside looking in thought both of them were not telling the truth, and that they mutually abused each other. Do you not believe that that was the case?
No, and that's one of the many misnomers. The way that Depp's team approached this was based on ignorance of domestic violence.
What? Did she really just say that? Based on ignorance? This woman just said ignorance of domestic violence.
It completely ignored the cycle of violence and just said, oh, she wouldn't have done this if he had been hitting her. That was their approach.
So you thought that they weren't fighting fair?
Correct. I don't think they were fighting fair.
And you think
absolutely.
Amber Heard is, in fact, a survivor of...
Elaine, no. This is terrible.
Domestic violence.
Yes, I absolutely believe that, and there's a tremendous amount of evidence, much of which did not come into this trial, did come into the UK trial. We even had more evidence. We had medical records. We had...
No, you didn't. You're lying, because if you had medical evidence of her being abused, there's no fucking way they would have excluded that in this trial. The reason why they didn't allow it in is because it had nothing to do with this. Oh my God, Elaine's a fucking liar. And then she goes on national television to do this. I hope they get sued again.
Mental health records that went back to 2012 that were contemporaneous. We had text messages from Mr. Depp's assistant saying, when I told him that he had kicked you, he cried.
So how
That
is she
didn't come
today,
in.
Elaine? How is she today? What is her
heartbroken.
next move?
She's right. Well, her next move is appeal. There were
But
a
she's
number.
heartbroken.
She is heartbroken. And one of the first things that she said when she came back from the verdict, when we went into the conference room, was, "I am so sorry to all these women."
You should apologize to all these women, because all you did was lie, and you made everyone who's ever fucking actually had a real story of abuse look dumb.
She said that?
Yes, she felt like she had let down all of these women because she had more evidence than most people do, and yet they still didn't believe her.
Elaine Bredehoft, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank
We'll be right back.
This was a fucking travesty of an interview. I don't even have words. See, and another thing that really bothers me is the angle that Amber Heard took when she released that statement right after the verdict came out. Let me just pull it up real quick, because she made a mention to freedom of speech and the fact that her First Amendment rights were being like jeopardized by this in some form. And it's like, bro, you can't fucking lie. You can't fucking lie on people's name. You can say whatever the fuck you want. Don't be lying. So this is what she says. The disappointment I feel today is beyond words. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband. Which, let's just analyze that one little section. When she came out with her allegations about him, it was instantly believed. So there's no disproportionate imbalance of power here. There's no influence or sway or any of that. You literally just said whatever and everyone believed you. It wasn't until the recordings and all of the evidence and the trial, it wasn't until all of that came out that people started to think that you were possibly a liar. So what even is that? Anyway, I'm even more disappointed with what this verdict means for other women. It is a setback. I find it cute that one line is here in her statement, echoed by her lawyer in like 5 different interviews that we've seen so far. Is this what y'all are running with on this loss? That it's a major setback for women? Because it's not. Women are still believed just on the accusation alone, because that's just what we do. If someone is accusing someone, it's custom to just believe their accusation, and I'm tired of that like baseline believe all women. I'm sick of that, because time and time again we're seeing that sometimes you can't trust these allegations. You got Amber Heard over here, you got Asia Argento, you got possibly Evan Rachel Wood. We don't know about that yet, but she's going to trial as well. There's a lot of people that are lying. So we can't just believe everyone at face value. We need some proof. Anyway, let's continue reading. It sets back the clock to a time when a woman who spoke up and spoke out could be publicly shamed and humiliated. It sets back the idea that violence against women is to be taken seriously. No one is saying any of that, Amber. You're just lying. You're a liar. And you tried to get money out of this man in the worst way. I believe Johnny's attorney has succeeded in getting the jury to overlook the key issue of freedom of speech and ignore the evidence that was so conclusive that we won in the UK. That's a blatant lie. There are no facts in that statement right there. The case in the UK wasn't even against her. She was simply a witness. She was a party to the trial because it was against the son. And it was a completely different case in a completely different country with a completely different set of rules. I'm sad I lost this case, but I am sadder still that I seem to have lost a right I thought I had as an American to speak freely and openly. This is the line that pisses me off the most, because she's trying to make it seem like her right as an American has been taken away from her just because she spoke out about her alleged abuse. But that's not what this is about. You lied, all right? You lied. And we saw you testify on the stand multiple times to these lies. And we're gonna watch a few right now. Just the ones that stood out to me, because there were some during Cross that really, really damned her. So we're gonna do Law and Crime. And this was really impressive to see because they had laid out all of the contradicting evidence in the trial. And they just set it up. And they were like, okay, so here's this exhibit, here's this exhibit, here's your testimony of you saying that it was on this date, and here's your testimony of you saying that this was on this date. Do you remember that? And every single time, Amber dodges it. If you were telling the truth, why would you do that? You would remember the dates and all of the things that you submitted, and you would remember the instances that you submitted. It doesn't make sense that you would just forget and then be combative when someone is pressing you on it.